Hey guys, what's up? It's Tiny Potato on your screen. I feel like I don't really reveal much about myself a lot of the time, so this is something about myself, my top 10 bands of all time, as of the start of 2024. Few clarifications. I've obviously only put bands on here that I like a lot of their songs. Unfortunately, in my little music career of listening to music. It's only been 5 or 6 years or whatever, and in that time, while there's been a few bands that have jumped out, I've liked a lot of their songs. A lot of the times, I just listen to one song from a band, and that's it. So this is the first time I've been able to make a list of 10 bands in which I like at least 10 of their songs, multiple albums, different eras. I did make similar lists like a few years back, but I wouldn't really count that as real because a lot of those bands have fallen off. So without further ado, say those top 10 bands of all time, and number 10 is a list of honorable mentions because I actually did not find a 10th band that I could put on here. As you can see, I've got Polyphia, Shredders, Falling in Reverse, and Spirit Box. All of these bands, Polyphia, I like a lot of their songs. I don't know all of their songs, so I can't really justify them being like my 10th best band of all time. Spirit Box, I feel like they just don't have enough songs. Falling in Reverse, I love all their latest stuff, like love, love. However, I just don't really like any of their earlier stuff at all, so I can't justify putting them on. And Shredders, little Russian band, they only have 2 albums. And while I like them, I feel like there's just not enough songs yet to justify being on the top 10. So let's just jump straight to number 9. Now, number 9 is Queen. Which most of you be like, Queen, come on, that's such an easy pick. But honestly, their music is just timeless. I listen to all different kinds of music, right? But I do listen to heavier music more than most other things. But whenever I want to listen to something a little bit more chill, Queen never misses. Like, to this day, it just never misses. And I can see where the roots of my music taste may have started with Queen because my dad listened to them a lot. And yeah, so I've had to slide them in there. I have slid them in at 9 though, because there are a lot of new flavors and new tastes that I've been ingesting recently, such as that's not one of them, but Seosin is number 8 for me. This is, if you don't know who Seosin is, they were one of the leading, I probably butchered the name by the way, but they were one of the leading bands in the early movements of post-hardcore, I'd like to say, where they used social media to promote themselves a lot. And I was just one of the leaders in the field back in the early 2000s. Now, I've gone through 3 iterations, I'd like to say. The early one with Anthony Green, the middle with Cove, and then the third with Anthony Green again. However, each one of these has come with their own distinct style, I would say, but they are all phenomenal. And to this day, they absolutely stand up. I don't listen to them all the time. It's same as Queen. I don't listen to them all the time. However, when I do, it always hits. It always hits. Obviously, yeah, it just always hits. So that's number 8 Season. Number 7 for me is Periphery. Now, they were my number 1 artist last year, so many of you may be saying, how come it's only number 7? A lot of the bands that are about to come above Periphery have never hit number 1 over a year for me. I've cooled on them slightly. I absolutely love their Red album, and I love some songs from the other albums. However, when I was looking through to try and find like my best hits or whatever, I can only put comfortably about 10 songs in to be like, I can listen to them anytime. They have some of the greatest songs that I have heard recently, but there is also a lot to sort through. And lots of people might say that Periphery is more of a genre than it is of a band with lots of what's the word I'm trying to think of here? Lots of like, it's not like they have a distinct new sound on every track and album. They have a little bit, but you know, they're the not gent boys, if you know what I mean. That's why they're sliding in my number 7. I did actually have them a lot higher originally, but number 7. Number 6 is going to be Unprocessed. Completely new to the list, and let's just say Periphery and Unprocessed were not on my list 3 years ago at all. 3 years ago, I think, is when I last did something like this. Unprocessed absolutely shot out of the gun. I had heard one of their songs years ago. I believe it was called Abandoned, and I liked it. And I was going through a very swancore phase at the time. I think that's why it missed at that time, because I was listening to a lot of more math rock and progressive post-hardcore, swancore kind of stuff. If you don't know what swancore is, just look it up. It's a stylized music by Will Swan of Dance Gavin Dance. That's maybe a spoiler. But Unprocessed, another one of their songs, jumped out at me when I was just scrolling through the internet. I think Nick Nocturnal was looking at thrash, and everyone was kind of making fun of the bass and the breakdown of that song. And I thought it was funny at first, but I actually just can't stop listening to it. So I went top to bottom and listened to all of their songs, and my goodness, I've added at least 30 songs, which is unheard of for me to listen to a band and just add. They are phenomenal. I think that they are highly underappreciated, or at least they don't have the media attention that they should, because they're just so good. Their early stuff was quite progressive, but it sounds really good. Their new stuff, you can see a little bit of Polyphia influence in there, but they still got the stings, they still got the screams. There's a little bit more metal coming back in. The one before it was a little bit more like melodic rock kind of stuff. But honestly, they're phenomenal. They've just jumped out at me, absolutely grabbed me by the loins, and jumped their way into number 6. They could definitely go higher over time, because I only listened to them for the first time 2 or 3 weeks ago. But that's just how much of an impact they've had. Number 5, I've got Idola. I always call it $1, but I'm sure I'm pronouncing it absolutely wrong. That's just how it's been in my brain since I first listened to them years ago. This could have been higher. It could have been lower. It's in an interesting spot because, once again, I absolutely love their music. I went through a phase when I was just listening to them over and over and over again. I put Dance Gavin Dance aside to listen to $1. If you don't know why I'm saying that, it's because the lead singer of $1 is now in Dance Gavin Dance, and that kind of group of bands. If no one's ever had a look at that, there's a group of bands where there's just members all from each other. They're kind of grouped in together when you're a part of that little swancore culture thing. Anyways, they also have some great progressive music from their earlier albums. Their latest one got a little bit more heavier, and I know they got some assistance from some, like, I think Sergio came in after their second album, or their third, something like that. So it's a little bit heavier on the bass, and the songs are a little bit more heavier with a little more screams. However, that first album is absolutely brilliant. Like, I always go back to that first album, which sometimes with bands, when their older stuff comes out, you can't listen. Sorry, when their newer stuff comes out, their older stuff goes, oh. But this one's timeless. I think I listened to that first album more than any of the others. And I obviously have some really beautiful gospel-like songs. They have some real, like, heart-wrenchers as well. Like, I think Lottie, I went through a phase where that was, like, the song that I listened to so much. Yeah, they hit that post-hardcore progressive itch every time. I need something a little bit different. Number 5. Now we're going into number 4. This is when the real heavy hitters come out, I think. Avenged Sevenfold. Again, anyone who knows me. Wow. Avenged Sevenfold is at number 4. And yes, they are. I'm going to find it hard to justify this because I only listened to them properly 2 or 3 weeks ago, just like Unprocessed. However, I did know 2 of their songs 6-7 years ago, so they have been sitting in there for ages, and I finally got around to listening to the rest of their catalogue. There's just so many bangers. Maybe I've overshot from a little bit of early hype, but there's so many bangers. And me as a person, generally, I've always said I do not like heavy metal as a genre. That is because, for me, it is the same as pop, just with heavy guitars. I'm not saying pop's bad. However, my brain just can't really do music where there's just verse, chorus, and there's no real deviation or whatever. Every single band on this list so far strays from that. You can see. Spirit Box and Queen are maybe the only ones you could slightly put into the category of they follow that. I don't want to say generic because that's just being unnecessarily rude. Simple is not always bad, guys. It's not always bad. But my brain just likes a little bit of extra. I think Spirit Box has that little bit extra. That's probably why they're not in my top 10. But Avenged Sevenfold, they definitely fit into doing that, but they just do it in such a fun way that I don't think I've really heard before from a heavy metal band. Sure, people are putting them in the hard rock category now, but I'm gonna keep them as heavy metal. They're number 4. I can't get enough of some of their songs, as can not some people. They're still hugely popular these days. Can't get enough. Fantastic. Number 4. Might drop after a year or so, as a lot of bands do. But yeah, it's at number 4 right now. Number 3, it's time for the top 3. Number 2 will shock you. Number 3. Alright, look guys, I'm not a part of fanboy culture at all. 99% of you will know who number 3 is just by me saying that. One of the most critically acclaimed bands from last year, who once again, there's a common theme here, I first heard them years ago, and I chucked them in a playlist. It was off their second album, and I listened to it every now and then, didn't think too much of it. They came out with a banger of an album last year. Everybody has fallen in love. I've literally been watching, it's so fascinating to me. They had 200,000 monthly listeners. They dropped that album, they are now up to 3.1 million listeners. Yes, 3.1 million listeners. For me, that's just a phenomenal meteoric rise. That is correct. You've all guessed it. My number 3 is Sleep Token. Just letting you guys process that yes, Sleep Token has got up to my number 3 band of all time. They are phenomenal. I've been saying that word so much. They have so many songs that are highly singable. I love to sing along to things. They have things that are groovy. They have things that are heavy. They have things that are poppy. They have things that are soulful. They have so much emotion in a lot of their songs. Even if I don't necessarily agree with, like, singers being over emotional for dramatic effect, for example. That's a really niche thing that it's a pet peeve of mine. It's like the person who, like, always wants you to call them a good singer when they, like, they're a good singer, but they go over the top to try and make you think that they are a good singer. If you know what I mean, you know what I mean. If you don't, please don't take it the wrong way. But I think they hit the nail on the head with just the mix of everything in there. There's nothing I love more than variety, and there's just such a variety of textures and genres within each of their songs. I know the drummer has come out and said that he's been a fan of R&B and jazz, I'd like to say, and soul, and the singer quite clearly is as well. You can see that in the band, even when they go heavy. It's just, I literally go top to bottom with my favorite songs from each of their albums all the time. They're so good. And if you're hating on them because it's the cool thing to do, like, come on, mate, you're allowed to enjoy it. I get it's cool to hate on them now because they've grown so popular so quickly, but, like, you're not doing yourself any favors, really. That piece of culture is, like, so dumb. Just enjoy the music. You don't need to be better than other people when listening to music. Come on, man. Okay, number two. I did say number two might shock you. It kind of shocks myself that they are still at number two. They've been my number two for the past 3 or 4 years. Anyone who knows me will know who it is just from that statement. They'll know who my 1 and 2 is. And that is Circa Survive. Circa Survive is the first love for music for me in this, since the start of my music listening seriously, because I never really had music growing up. I was exposed to a little bit through some video games when we were allowed to play them every now and then on the weekends. For example, MX Unleashed, where I saw Red Jumpsuit Apparatus and Rise Against and the Authority Zero and stuff like that, and I loved those. It's obviously been long enough that I've cooled off them and they're not in my top 10. But Circa Survive was that one band that really, it sparked something inside of me, which just started this whole revolution of opening my eyes to what music can actually be. That is never going to change. I'm not sure it'll ever go off my top 10. However, even though there's that emotional attachment, I can still go and listen to a lot of their albums, and they are still just up there for me. Their first album, it just sounds so raw and emotional, and they have one of the golden 3 in a row songs of all time for me. Their latest songs are a little bit more slower. Latest, the 2017 album, I should say. They're actually officially on hiatus, and it's the first band that I've listened to where I've listened to them while they're active, and then they're not active anymore. So that was slightly emotional as well, I guess. But there's just so much to love about Circa Survive for me personally. They have that progressive style. They have the slightly emo style, people might say. But I just take that to be just emotional music. It's slightly psychedelic in areas, but in a way that works just really nicely for me. And they got that heavy bass as well in a lot of their songs, which, you know, who doesn't love a really heavy, goofy bass? I absolutely love Circa Survive. I don't listen to them all the time anymore. However, they are definitely still up there, because every time I do, I go, man, I should listen to them more. Also, Child of the Desert is the song that started this music revolution for me. So it's always going to be in my top 10 songs, which I should do that list as well. Although, now I think about it, top 10 songs probably going to come from all of the bands on this list, so maybe it wouldn't be that interesting. And number one, everybody always knows it, Dance Gavin Dance. Don't need to cut around that fact. This is the most musically talented band ever. I will die on that hill. It is outstanding to me that they are not like one of the most popular bands in the world. Absolutely outstanding. And I get it because they don't have any like big arena anthem songs, and that's why they're not as popular. But they've done their own style the whole time, and I can respect that. They have been my number one for the past 4 or 5 years, passing Circa Survive. Nothing has come close. I've tried so much since first coming on Dance Gavin Dance, and nothing surpasses it whatsoever. They're just so creative. And this is the thing, okay? I need to clarify this. Not all of their songs are a hit for me. They don't need to be, because the ones that are, they just really are. It ticks the boxes of having so much variety that I'm constantly interested. They have so much innovation and newness to all of their songs that it just hooks me every single time. And I don't even know like 20 or 30 of their songs, and I don't need to. Like I've heard them and kind of don't want to listen to them, right? Which is fine. Every band has a stinker every now and then. But my goodness, the gold outweighs the shoddiness of some of their earlier stuff. And I go through this cycle where they release an album, I don't like it. They release an album, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know about that. And then 6 months later, I'm like, okay. And then a year later, I'm just like, come in, buddy. Yes. Jackpot Juicer did not do it for me as much as some of their earlier albums. However, there are still some great songs on there. Like, there's some genuinely great songs. Their last 2 hits have just been mwah. The 2 singles that they've released. They've been so good. I've seen them 3 times live. I could probably see them so many more times live. Their energy is just phenomenal. I'm gushing so much right now. It's because I don't get to talk about it too much. So when I do, I'm so happy to talk about it all the time. This is my top 10 bands of all time right now. Let me know what your top 10 bands are. If you haven't listened to these, let me know in the comments. I can link songs to all of these artists. I have little best of playlists for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have for 7 of these, 8 of these. I might make all of them. I can link them if you guys want. Let me know what you think of the list. Let me know what yours are. But otherwise, yeah, that's my top 10 bands of all time. Thank you for watching. I hope you had some enjoyment just hearing me talk about it. I want to do more videos where it's just me talking to you guys. And yeah, I hope everyone stays fresh. And I will catch you in the next one. See ya.